The first fine came in an envelope with a little green leaf printed beside the word community. $250. That was what my homeowners association decided my front yard was worth in punishment, because I had removed a dying lawn and replaced it with California native plants during the driest summer Los Angeles County had seen in years. The letter said my landscaping was visually inconsistent with neighborhood standards. What it did not say was that 3 houses down from me, the HOA's own sprinkler system was running at 17 inches the afternoon. Water was spraying across an empty sidewalk, soaking the curb, and pouring into the storm drain while everybody in our neighborhood was being told to take shorter showers. It also did not say that the same board fining me for weeds was spending more than $18. 000 a year, watering decorative grass. Nobody used. I'm Maya Torres. I'm a single mother, a medical billing supervisor, and until all this happened, I was the kind of person who read HOA emails, Sahil, and deleted them. I had lived in Canyon Vista Estates in the San Fernando Valley for 9 years. It was one of those developments built in the late 90s where every front yard was supposed to look nearly identical. Beige stucco, terracotta roofs, small ornamental trees, green lawns trimmed into neat little rectangles like the neighborhood had been stamped out by one very determined cookie cutter. For a long time, I went along with it. Then the drought got worse. My water bill rose. The patches in my lawn turned brown anyway. My daughter Elena started asking why we were wasting water on grass nobody even walked on. And after I watched the city issue one more warning about outdoor watering, I made a simple decision. I was going to build a front yard that made sense for Southern California. The HOA thought it looked like a problem. Anna thought it looked like evidence. And by the time she was done, the board that called my garden an eyesore had to explain why they were wasting enough water to fill a backyard pool every few weeks. I had not always hated my lawn. When I bought the house, I liked the way it looked in the listing photos. The grass was green. The roses along the walkway were blooming. There was a young queen palm near the driveway that made the place feel a little more cheerful than the houses around it. But the lawn was expensive from the beginning. Every summer, the heat came down hard on our block. The grass turned brittle around the edges. The sprinkler timer ran before dawn 3 days a week. And even then, there were brown spots everywhere. I paid for fertilizer. I paid for reseeding. I paid for someone to check the irrigation system twice because roots had cracked a line under the side yard. And every year, it felt like I was spending money to maintain something nature clearly did not want there. When Elena turned 10, her school did a project about local ecosystems. She came home with a packet full of drawings of monarch butterflies, native bees, coastal sage, California poppies, and hummingbirds. She pointed at our front lawn and said, "Mom, what animals live in this?" I looked at the flat strip of grass and gave her the honest answer. Mostly sprinklers. That was the start of it. I spent 6 months researching, not because I wanted to start a fight. I wanted to do it right. I read the HOA's architectural guidelines. They were nearly 40 pages long and said plenty about roof colors, mailbox styles, visible trash bins, and holiday lights. But when it came to landscaping, the rule was vague. It said yards had to be neat, attractive, and consistent with the visual character of the community. Nothing about a lawn being mandatory. Nothing saying I could not use native plants. Nothing saying I had to keep watering grass through a drought. So I made a plan. I hired a small local landscaping company owned by a woman named Teresa Vaughn. She walked the property with me and designed a yard that would use a fraction of the water my lawn needed. We kept a clean flagstone path from the sidewalk to the front door. We added decomposed granite and soft gold tones. Along the path, Teresa planted Cleveland sage, yarrow, California fuchsia, buckwheat, pink moly grass, and clusters of bright orange monkey flower. Near the porch, Elena picked 2 manzanitas because she liked their twisting red branches. We installed drip irrigation, not a single spray head. The project cost me $6. 480. That was not nothing for me. I saved for it. I skipped a beach trip that summer. I picked up extra work on weekends, but I saw it as an investment, lower bills, les maintenance, a yard that belonged in California instead of a postcard from somewhere with rain. Before the work started, I submitted the design package to the HOA Architectural Committee. I included the plan, plant list, irrigation details, contractor license, deux photos, and a short letter explaining that the landscape was designed for water conservation. 2 weeks later, I got approval. Not verbal approval. Not a casual email. A signed approval letter. It said the committee had reviewed the plan and found it acceptable as submitted. So we did the work. For the first month, people stopped when they walked by. Some of them loved it. An older couple from the next street told me it reminded them of the hills outside Santa Clarita. A woman named Priya took pictures because she was thinking about replacing her own lawn. Even people who did not understand it were polite. Then Diane Mercer came by. Diane was the HOA president. She had been on the board for 4 years and acted like Canyon Vista Estates was her personal showroom. She wore crisp white tennis skirts, drove a black luxury SUV, and had somehow convinced herself that every decision about every house on the block needed her approval. Her front lawn was flawless. It was also watered so aggressively that the sidewalk beside her house was often wet before sunrise. She stood at the edge of my walkway with her arms crossed and looked over the new plants. "This is temporary, right?" she asked. I was kneeling beside the manzanita, pulling a little tag that had come loose from the nursery. "No," I said. "This is the finished design." She looked at the golden gravel, the sage, the flowering plants, and then at me. "It reads unfinished. It's drought-tolerant landscaping. It reads unfinished," she repeated. I stood up slowly. The architectural committee approved it. Diane smiled the way some people do when they have decided rules only apply to other people. "The committee may have approved your paperwork," she said, "but the board has a responsibility to protect property values." Then she walked away. That should have been the end of it. Instead, 3 days later, I found a yellow notice taped to my mailbox. Landscape violation. The notice said my yard contained unapproved sparse vegetation, exposed soil conditions, and non-conforming ground cover. It gave me 10 days to restore traditional turf coverage or submit a revised landscaping plan. I read it twice in my kitchen. Then I pulled out the approval letter. The letter and the violation notice were dated less than 6 weeks apart. I sent the property manager a calm email. I attached the approval. I asked if the violation had been issued by mistake. The response came the next morning from Diane herself. "Maya," it said, "the board has reviewed your landscape after installation. The final appearance is not compatible with the established character of Canyon Vista Estates. Approval can be reconsidered when a completed project negatively affects the community." I stared at that sentence for a long time. Approval can be reconsidered. Apparently, in Diane's version of the world, a signed approval was only valid until she decided she did not like how it looked. I replied that I would attend the next board meeting to discuss it. The meeting was held in the small clubhouse beside the community pool. It had folding chairs, a fake ficus tree in the corner, and a framed photo of the original development, groundbreaking from 1998. Diane sat at the center of a long table with the other 4 board members. I brought my approval letter, contractor invoice, plant list, and copies of the HOA guidelines. Elena came with me because she had helped choose the plants. She sat in the back beside my neighbor Priya and held a little notebook in her lap. Diane began with routine business: a cracked pool tile, a request for a new patio awning, a discussion about holiday decorations. Then she said, "We will now address the landscaping violation at Lot 38. That was me. She did not say my name. She said Lot 38. I stood and walked to the microphone. "I believe the violation was issued in error." I said, "The landscaping was approved by the architectural committee. This is the signed letter, dated May 6th. I handed copies to the board. Diane did not even look surprised. "We have reviewed the file," she said. "Then you know it was approved." The committee approved a concept, she replied. What has been installed is visually disruptive. It is exactly what was submitted. Board member Harold Finch, a retired dentist who rarely spoke at meetings, adjusted his glasses. The yard has a lot of gravel, he said. It has decomposed granite. I replied. It is a permeable ground cover used in drought-tolerant landscapes. Diane leaned closer to her microphone. This is not about technical terms, Maya. It is about standards. I felt heat rise in my face, but I kept my voice steady. What standard did I violate? The room got quiet. Diane looked down at a document, then back up. The standard of maintaining a cohesive streetscape. That is not a rule. I said, that is an opinion. Her smile disappeared. You are welcome to submit an appeal. I'm appealing now. No, she said. You are addressing the board. An appeal requires a formal hearing. That is what I requested. Diane folded her hands. Then submit the form and the $150 administrative fee. For a moment, I honestly thought I had heard her wrong. You fined me over a yard you approved, I said, and I have to pay $150 to ask you to look at the approval? That is the process. I looked at the other board members. None of them met my eyes. That night, Elena asked if we were going to have to tear up the garden. I told her no, but I did not know if that was true. 10 days passed. I submitted the appeal form and paid the fee because I did not want them claiming I had missed a deadline. Then I received another letter. The board had denied my appeal. They gave me 30 days to install a minimum of 60% living turf coverage in the front yard. If I did not, they would fine me $250 per month until the violation was corrected. At the bottom of the letter, in bold tube, was one sentence. Failure to comply may result in additional enforcement action. That was when I called Anna. I had met Anna Flores the year before at a neighborhood event. She was not a lawyer, and she never pretended to be one. She worked as a community advocate and document researcher. People called her when something felt wrong, but nobody knew where to begin. She had a way of asking questions that made a messy situation suddenly look organized. Anna came to my house on a Saturday morning with a canvas tote bag, a legal pad, and a bottle of iced coffee. She stood at the curb and looked over the yard. The sage had started blooming purple. A hummingbird darted between the monkey flowers. The manzanitas were still small, but their red branches caught the morning light. This is beautiful, Anna said. Diane called it patchy. Anna looked toward the street. Diane calls anything she can't control patchy. I handed her the approval letter, the violation notices, and the appeal denial. She sat at my patio table and read every page without interrupting. Finally, she looked up. They approved the plan, then punished you for following it. That's what I said. And they're demanding turf during a drought. Yes. Anna tapped the HOA guidelines. Did they identify a specific landscape rule? No. Did they say the plants were dead? Invasive? Unsafe? Or improperly maintained? No. Did they give you a hearing before they started threatening fines? They let me talk for about 4 minutes. Anna nodded slowly. Okay. We have a process problem. But process is only half the story. What's the other half? She looked toward the clubhouse lawn across the street. The grass around the pool was bright green, almost unnaturally green. At the edge of the lawn, I could see the sprinkler heads buried in the mulch. The other half, Anna said, is whether the people telling you to waste water have been wasting even more themselves. I did not understand what she meant at first. Then she asked, have you ever seen the common area sprinklers running during the day? I laughed once, without humor, almost every week. Have you ever photographed it? No. Then we start there. Anna did not tell me to confront Diane. She did not tell me to post anything online. She told me to document. For 3 weeks, we documented everything. I photographed the clubhouse sprinklers at 12:42 p.m. on a Tuesday. The water hit the sidewalk, then ran down the gutter toward a storm drain. Anna photographed the entrance monument at 2:08 p.m. On Thursday, two sprinkler heads sprayed directly into a hedge. One of them had been turned so far sideways that it watered the association's brick sign. Priya took pictures of the grass strip along the east wall. It was being watered in the rain. Another neighbor, Mark, recorded a short video of the irrigation system running long after sunset. The water pooled at the curb, then overflowed into the street. Anna told every person helping us the same thing. Do not trespass. Do not touch anything. Do not argue with anyone. We are only recording what is visible from public areas or your own property. Then she filed a records request with the HOA. Under California's Homeowner Association, records rules, members had the right to inspect certain association documents. Anna requested the landscape maintenance contracts, irrigation repair invoices, annual water bills for common areas, board minutes relating to water use, and all communications concerning the enforcement of my landscaping violation. The property manager replied within a week. Some records were provided, some were not. And what they did provide was enough to make Anna sit very still at my kitchen table. The HOA's water bills for the previous year totaled $18,744 for common landscaping alone. That did not include the pool, bathrooms, or clubhouse kitchen. It was just irrigation. The association had paid more than $1.560 a month to water grass strips, entrance medians, a decorative lawn beside the pool, and little green patches between sidewalks that nobody had ever used. But that was not the part that caught Anna's attention. The bills showed sharp spikes every summer. In July, the HOA used nearly 310,000 gallons. In August, it used more than 342,000 gallons. And in September, during a period when local conservation messaging was everywhere, the usage barely dropped. Anna placed the bills side by side. Look at this, she said. What am I looking at? Your board is treating grass like an amenity, she said, but it is costing every homeowner money. I thought about the monthly dues that had risen twice since I moved in. What does that have to do with my fine? It has everything to do with your fine if they are enforcing landscaping rules that push homeowners toward high water use while refusing to fix their own waste. That sounded logical, but Anna was careful. Waste is not automatically fraud, she said. Bad irrigation can come from neglect, incompetence, outdated equipment, or a contractor who doesn't care. We don't accuse them of anything we can't prove. We show the facts, and we make them answer. So that was what we did. Anna pulled local water conservation materials and county landscape guidance. She found information about drought-tolerant planting, irrigation efficiency, and rules that discouraged associations from unreasonably preventing homeowners from using low-water landscaping. She also found something important in the HOA's own documents. 2 years earlier, the board had approved a water-conscious community initiative. It sounded impressive. The minutes said the board would explore efficient irrigation, review landscaping costs, and encourage drought-resilient improvements. Diane had voted for it. The board had never followed through. No irrigation audit, no repair plan, no conversion of high-water common areas, no update to the landscaping rules. Just a resolution full of nice words, followed by another summer of sprinklers spraying sidewalks. Anna looked at the board minutes and said, they knew this was an issue. They put it in writing. Then they chose to fine you instead of fixing their own system. The next board meeting was packed, not because I had told everyone what we found. I had not. Anna told me to let the records speak first. But word travels quickly in a neighborhood where everyone is paying the same HOA dues. Diane began the meeting with her usual polished tone. Then she called my case. Miss Torres has been notified that her landscape remains non-compliant, Diane said. The board will now consider the next phase of enforcement. I stood. This time, Yehedabitna. Anna sat beside me in the front row. Priya and Mark were behind us. Elena was at home with my sister because I did not want her to see adults talk down to her mother again. I would like to submit documents before the board acts, I said. Diane's expression tightened. You may speak during homeowner forum. This concerns an enforcement action against my property, I replied. I am asking the board to consider the evidence before making a decision. After a pause, Harold Finch said, Let her submit it. Diane looked at him. Then she said, Fine. 5 minutes. I put the approval letter on the table first. This is the signed architectural approval for my landscape, I said. The installed design matches the approved plan. Then I placed the HOA guidelines beside it. The board has not identified a rule requiring turf, a rule prohibiting native plants, or a rule allowing approved landscaping to be retroactively rejected based on personal preference. Diane tried to interrupt. This is not personal preference. I raised one hand. Still calm. I have not finished. The room got very quiet. Then I held up photographs. These images show HOA irrigation running at midday on 7 separate dates over the last 3 weeks. The water is spraying sidewalks, streets, and storm drains. Anna slid printed stills toward the board. Diane looked at them without touching them. I put the water bills down last. These are the association's common area water bills. Last summer, the HOA used more than 900,000 gallons over 3 months for landscape irrigation. The board has a written water-conscious initiative, but there is no evidence it completed an irrigation audit or corrected visible waste. Diane's face turned red. This is completely irrelevant to your yard. No, I said. It is relevant because this board is trying to force me to reinstall high-water turf while it wastes homeowner money on decorative grass and broken sprinklers. A man in the back said, How much are we paying for that? Diane looked toward him. Please do not interrupt. But the room had changed. People were flipping through the documents. Priya whispered something to her husband. Mark pointed at a photo of water running into the gutter. Diane sat up straighter. The association's landscaping is professionally maintained. Anna spoke for the first time. Then the association should have no trouble producing the maintenance reports, irrigation inspection reports, and repair work orders that explain the repeated runoff. Diane looked directly at her. And you are? Ana Flores. Ms. Torres asked me to help organize public records and correspondence. This board does not answer to outside activists. Anna did not smile. No. But it does answer to its members. That was the line that broke Diane's control of the room. The property manager, who had been sitting near the wall with a laptop, looked nervous. One of the board members, a quiet man named Devin Shaw, asked if the irrigation contractor had been contacted about the pictures. Diane said it was being handled. Then Harold asked when it had been handled. Diane did not answer. The meeting ended without a vote on my fine. Diane called it a continuance for additional review. Anna called it the first time the board had realized this was no longer just about my front yard. The next morning, I got an email from Diane. It said the board was suspending my enforcement action temporarily while it reviewed the matter. There was no apology, no acknowledgement that I had been right, just the word temporarily. Anna read the email and said, Good. Now, we give them a chance to do the right thing. What does that mean? It means we send a written request. Clear. Professional. Specific. They can rescind the violation, remove the fine threat, confirm that drought-tolerant landscaping is allowed, and disclose a plan to inspect the irrigation system. And if they don't, then we make sure every homeowner sees the numbers before the next election. That was the one opportunity we gave them. Anna helped me draft the letter. It was not angry. It did not accuse anyone of theft or corruption. It simply listed the facts. My garden had been approved. The board had not cited a valid rule requiring turf. The association was facing major common area irrigation costs and visible waste. The board should suspend all landscaping fines related to water-saving designs until the rules were reviewed. The board should commission an irrigation audit, publish the results, and create a transparent plan for repairs and water reduction. We gave them 14 days to respond, Diane responded in 4. Her email was shorter than I expected. The board rejects the characterization that Canyon Vista Estates is engaged in water waste. The association's landscaping is maintained according to professional standards. Homeowners are expected to preserve the established visual quality of the community. Then came the sentence I will never forget. Individual environmental preferences cannot override the community's right to look successful. I read it aloud to Anna. She set her coffee down. Save that, she said. Why? Because she just admitted this isn't about maintenance. It is about appearances. And that makes the board's position even harder to defend. The board reinstated the fine threat the following week, $250 per month. I was told the first charge would appear on my account if I did not submit a lawn restoration plan by the end of the month. That was when I got scared. Not because I thought my garden was wrong, because I knew what HOA debt could do when it snowballed. Law to face, collection notices, attorney letters, the feeling that your own home could become a place where every envelope made your stomach drop. I was not trying to win some internet argument. I was trying to protect my house. Anna saw that. She came over one evening after work and found me sitting on the porch, staring at the garden. The sun was going down. The sage smelled sharp in the warm air. Elena was inside doing homework. I can't keep spending money on this, I said. You shouldn't have to. What if they just keep adding fees? Then we challenge every fee they add. I'm one person. Anna sat beside me on the porch step. No, she said. You are one homeowner who followed the rules. That matters. But you are also standing in front of a problem every homeowner is paying for. That matters more. Then she told me something I had not noticed. The water bills had not only been high, they had risen after the HOA signed a new landscaping contract. The contractor was called Greencrest Grounds. Anna had looked through old board minutes and found that Diane's brother-in-law, Richard Bell, was listed as a regional sales manager for a landscaping supply company that sold irrigation equipment and turf products. It did not prove that Diane had benefited from the contract. Anna was very clear about that. But it did raise a fair question. Had the board disclosed the family connection before approving repeated contract renewals and expensive irrigation work? The records we had received did not include any conflict of interest disclosure. Anna did not make a public accusation. Instead, she requested the disclosure records. The property manager replied that no formal conflict disclosure could be located. That did not mean one did not exist. It meant the HOA could not produce it. By then, residents had started talking. A couple on my street told me their dues had increased by nearly $40 a month over 2 years. A retiree named Mr. Salazar said he had complained about broken sprinklers near the entrance for months. Another homeowner said she had been denied permission to replace her front lawn with drought-tolerant ground cover because the board told her brown landscaping lowers resale value. People had been dealing with the same mindset one by one. Nobody had realized it was a pattern. Anna helped us create a simple homeowner information packet. No insults. No dramatic claims. Just records. Dates. Photographs. And questions. How much is the HOA paying for irrigation? How many water-saving landscape requests have been denied? Why was an approved garden fined? Where are the irrigation inspection reports? What conflict disclosures were made before landscape contracts were renewed? We delivered the packet door to door and emailed it to homeowners who asked for a copy. Within 2 days, the board sent out its own email. It accused unnamed residents of spreading misleading and divisive information. That backfired immediately. Because the information packet contained the HOA's own water bills, the following Monday, the County Water District issued a routine notice after receiving a complaint about visible runoff at the entrance monument. The notice was not a massive punishment. No one came in with handcuffs. No dramatic government raid happened. An inspector simply documented the runoff, notified the association, and required a review of the irrigation issue. That was all we needed. Because now the board could no longer say the water waste was imaginary. At the emergency board meeting, Diane arrived 15 minutes late. She looked tired for the first time since I had known her. The room was too full for the clubhouse chairs. People stood along the walls. Some sat on the floor near the back. Diane opened the meeting by saying the board was taking proactive steps. Then Devon Shaw asked her to explain why those steps had not been taken before the county notice. She said the board had relied on its contractor. Harold asked whether the contractor had provided inspection reports. She said she would have to check. A woman named Lila, who lived near the pool, stood during homeowner forum. My dues went up, she said. My water bill went up. And you fined Maya because she stopped wasting water. How exactly is that protecting this community? The room applauded. Diane tried to restore order. Then Mr. Salazar stood. I have lived here since 2001. He said, I have reported that broken sprinkler by the east wall 6 times. I was told it would be fixed. It was never fixed. But you had time to inspect someone's flowers? More applause. Diane looked at the property manager. The property manager looked down. Then Anna stood, holding a folder. She spoke calmly. Mies, Mercer, this is not a request for anyone to be embarrassed. It is a request for the board to correct its policies. Ms. Torres followed an approved plan designed to reduce water use. The board's enforcement action appears inconsistent with both its own approval and its stated conservation goals. The association's water data and the documented runoff show that the current landscape policy is costing the community money. Diane's voice hardened. You keep framing this as some kind of moral issue. Anna nodded once. No, I'm framing it as a governance issue. That was the moment I knew we had crossed a line the board could not uncross. Diane could call my garden ugly. She could call Anna an outsider. She could call residents divisive, but she could not make the water bills disappear. She could not make the videos disappear. And she could not explain why the board was demanding turf from homeowners while spending thousands to water decorative grass badly. The board voted that night to suspend all fines related to drought-tolerant landscaping pending a full policy review. Diane voted no. The vote was 4-1. I should have felt relieved. Instead, I felt something quieter. For the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe. But Anna was not done. Suspending the fine is good, she told me afterward. But a suspension is not a correction. We still need the written rescission. We still need the rule change. And homeowners need to know exactly where their dues are going. Over the next 6 weeks, Canyon Vista Estates changed in ways I never expected. The HOA hired an independent irrigation auditor, not Greencrest Grounds, an actual outside specialist. The audit found 31 defective sprinkler heads, 4 leaking valves, 3 irrigation zones programmed for midday watering, and 2 areas where runoff was consistently reaching the storm drain. The estimated annual water loss was more than 280,000 gallons. When the report was presented, nobody in the room spoke for almost a full minute. 280,000 gallons. That was water the board had been paying for while telling me my drought-tolerant garden was a threat to property values. The auditor also found that much of the association's turf could be replaced with low-water planting without affecting access, safety, or visibility. The total projected savings after repairs and landscaping changes was between $7,000 and $9,000. $500 a year. Not enough to make anyone rich. Enough to stop wasting money. Enough to keep dues from rising again. Enough to show that my little front garden had never been the problem. The board's landscape committee was dissolved and rebuilt, with homeowner volunteers. Priya joined. So did Mr. Salazar. I did too, though I almost said no because I was tired. Anna looked at me and said, if reasonable people always walk away after the fight, the unreasonable people keep the chairs. So I took a chair. The new committee drafted rules that were actually clear. Homeowners could use drought-tolerant and native landscaping. They could use mulch, permeable ground cover, and drip irrigation. They had to maintain plants, control weights, keep paths safe, and submit a basic design plan. But nobody could be forced to install thirsty turf simply because the board preferred a certain look. The revised rules also said that once a plan was approved and installed according to that plan, the board could not revoke approval without a documented violation of a written standard. That sentence mattered to me more than I can explain. It was not fancy. It was not dramatic. It was protection. The HOA rescinded my violation in writing. They removed the administrative fee from my account. They canceled the monthly fines before any were charged. They did not reimburse the $150 appeal fee at first. Anna asked for it. The board refused. So we brought it up during open session, in front of homeowners. Harold Finch, who had finally found a backbone, made the motion to refund it. Devin seconded. Diane voted no again. The motion passed. A week later, Diane resigned as president. She did not make a speech. She did not apologize publicly. Her resignation email said she was stepping down to focus on personal priorities. Maybe that was true. Maybe she was tired of being questioned. Maybe she finally understood that being in charge of a neighborhood did not mean owning every decision people made on their own property. Greencrest Grounds was not accused of any crime. The HOA simply chose not to renew its contract after the audit revealed how poorly the irrigation had been maintained. The new contractor repaired the leaks, replaced damaged heads, adjusted watering schedules, and converted several unused lawn strips into drought-tolerant beds. And then something happened that made me laugh. The board asked if it could use my front yard as a demonstration site. At first, I thought it was a joke. It was not. They wanted Teresa, the landscaper who designed my garden, to explain the plant choices at a homeowner workshop. They wanted people to see that a native garden could be clean, colorful, intentionnel, and beautiful without looking like a dried-out patch of dirt. Teresa agreed. On the morning of the workshop, 27 people showed up. Some came because they wanted to save money. Some came because they were worried about drought restrictions. Some came because they had secretly liked my yard all along but had been afraid the HOA would come after them too. Elena stood beside the manzanita and explained to a little boy why the hummingbirds liked the flowers. She was so serious about it that everyone listened. By the end of the day, 6 homeowners had asked Teresa for estimates. 3 months later, Priya replaced the lawn beside her driveway with native grasses and flowering plants. Mr. Salazar changed the strip along his sidewalk to drip irrigation and yarrow. Lila planted sage and lavender around her porch. Canyon Vista Estates did not become wild or messy. It became smarter. The streets still looked cared for. The homes still looked valuable. The sidewalks were still clean. But the neighborhood started looking less like it was fighting the climate and more like it belonged to the place where it had been built. My water bill dropped by almost $48 a month during the hottest part of the year. The HOA's common area bill dropped too. And the garden Diane once called unfinished became the one people paused to photograph when they walked by. A year after the first violation notice, I found a monarch butterfly resting on the orange monkey flowers near my porch. Elena was leaving for school. She stopped beside me and smiled. "Mom," she said, "that's something living in our yard." I looked down the street toward the clubhouse. The lawn there was smaller now. The broken sprinklers were gone. The sidewalk was dry. For a long time, I thought this fight was about whether I got to keep my garden. But it was really about something bigger. It was about whether an HOA could punish a homeowner for making a responsible choice while hiding behind vague standards and ignoring its own waste. They wanted me to spend more money, use more water, and restore a lawn that never made sense in the first place. Instead, Anna helped me show everyone where the real waste was. I did not win because I shouted louder than Diane. I won because records do not get intimidated. Water bills do not care who sits at the head of the board table. And a garden is only weeds when the wrong person is looking at it. If your HOA told you to keep a thirsty lawn during a drought, would you comply? Fight the rule? Or try to change it from inside the community? Some people might say a uniform neighborhood needs uniform landscaping. Others would say wasting water just to preserve appearances is the real violation. Where would you draw the line? Leave your take below. I read more of these than you might think. This video is a dramatized storytelling narrative based on real-life themes and HOA regulations. names, characters, and specific locations have been changed. Visuals are generated using AI tools for illustrative purposes only.